Feeling tired all the time has become so common that many people simply accept it as a normal part of life. But constantly feeling exhausted is not something the human body was designed to experience every day. Your body depends on a delicate balance of sleep, nutrition, movement, stress, and recovery. And when one or more of these areas become disrupted, fatigue often appears as one of the first warning signs. One of the biggest reasons people constantly feel tired is poor sleep quality, because getting enough hours of sleep does not always mean getting enough rest. Many people spend 7 or 8 hours in bed, but still wake up exhausted because their sleep is interrupted too often, or they spend less time in deep restorative stages of sleep. Things like stress, screens before bed, irregular schedules, and sleeping with lights or noise can quietly reduce sleep quality without people realizing it. Another common reason is dehydration, because even mild dehydration can affect energy, concentration, mood, and physical performance. Many people go through their entire day drinking very little water while consuming coffee, soft drinks, or other beverages. And although these drinks contain fluids, they do not always replace proper hydration. As dehydration builds, people may experience headaches, brain fog, and a constant feeling of fatigue. Another major reason involves poor nutrition, because the body relies on nutrients to produce energy, and when meals consist mainly of processed foods, sugary snacks, or highly refined carbohydrates, energy levels may become unstable, causing sharp rises followed by sudden crashes. Over time, these fluctuations can make people feel tired, even when they are eating enough calories. Another reason many people overlook is lack of physical activity, because it may seem logical that resting more would create more energy, but the opposite is often true. Regular movement improves circulation, strengthens the heart, and helps the body use oxygen more efficiently, while long periods of sitting can create feelings of sluggishness and low energy. Beyond physical causes, stress is one of the most powerful factors influencing fatigue, because when stress becomes part of daily life, the body remains in a constant state of alertness, producing stress hormones that interfere with sleep, digestion, and recovery. Eventually, the nervous system becomes exhausted, leading to a strange combination of mental tiredness and physical restlessness, where people feel exhausted but still struggle to relax. Perhaps one of the reasons this problem has become so widespread is that modern life encourages habits that constantly demand attention, while leaving little room for true recovery. Over time, many individuals forget what it feels like to wake up refreshed, because fatigue becomes their normal state, instead of a signal that something needs attention. Another major reason people constantly feel tired is excessive screen time, because modern technology provides endless streams of information, entertainment, and stimulation. And while this may seem mentally relaxing, the brain actually spends enormous amounts of energy processing everything it sees, hears, and reacts to. And over time, this constant stimulation can create mental exhaustion, especially when phones and screens are used late at night, because they interfere with the natural signals that prepare the body for sleep. And many people underestimate how much their devices influence their energy levels, because the effects usually appear gradually rather than all at once. Another reason involves consuming too much caffeine, because although coffee and energy drinks can temporarily increase alertness, they do not actually create energy, but instead block the brain's perception of fatigue. And when people rely heavily on caffeine, they may ignore the body's need for proper rest, causing exhaustion to accumulate beneath the surface. And eventually, they become trapped in cycles where they use caffeine to overcome tiredness, but the caffeine itself contributes to sleep problems that create even more fatigue. Another common cause is skipping meals or eating irregularly, because the brain requires a stable supply of nutrients, and when people spend long periods without eating, followed by large meals, blood sugar levels may fluctuate, causing periods of weakness and energy crashes. And these fluctuations can affect mood, focus, and motivation throughout the day. Another important factor is lack of sunlight, because sunlight plays a critical role in regulating the body's internal clock and supporting vitamin D production. And when people spend most of their time indoors under artificial lighting, the brain may struggle to maintain healthy sleep patterns and stable energy levels, leading to feelings of tiredness and low motivation. And many individuals today also experience what could be described as information overload, because they are constantly exposed to notifications, news, messages, videos, and social media updates, leaving the brain with very few opportunities to rest and process experiences quietly. And while physical exhaustion comes from overworking the body, mental exhaustion often comes from overworking attention. And another reason people feel tired all the time is loneliness and emotional stress, because humans are social creatures, and emotional well-being has a direct influence on energy levels and motivation. Prolonged feelings of isolation, anxiety, or sadness can drain mental resources in ways that are just as powerful as physical exhaustion. And because emotional fatigue cannot always be seen, many people blame themselves for being lazy, when in reality, their minds and bodies are struggling under invisible burdens. And over time, these different causes often begin reinforcing one another, creating cycles where stress disrupts sleep, poor sleep increases fatigue, fatigue reduces physical activity, and low activity further decreases energy, making it difficult to break free from the pattern. One of the most overlooked reasons people constantly feel tired is that they rarely give themselves opportunities to truly recover. Because recovery is not simply the absence of work, but an active process that involves sleep, relaxation, movement, proper nutrition, and moments of mental quiet. And in a world filled with constant stimulation, many individuals move from one task to another without ever allowing their brains and bodies to fully recharge. And another reason involves chronic overthinking, because constantly worrying, planning, and replaying situations inside the mind consumes enormous amounts of mental energy. And even though the body may remain physically inactive, the brain can become exhausted from endless streams of thoughts. And this is why people often wake up tired after nights spent worrying, because the mind never fully entered a state of rest. Another cause is the habit of never slowing down, because many people believe that productivity means being busy every moment of the day. But the body was not designed for non-stop performance, and without periods of rest, energy reserves gradually decline. And perhaps one of the most surprising reasons behind constant fatigue is boredom combined with overstimulation. Because short videos, social media, and endless entertainment train the brain to expect constant excitement. And when ordinary life cannot match that level of stimulation, people begin feeling unmotivated and tired, even though the real issue is not lack of energy, but changes in the reward system of the brain. And another major factor is poor posture and spending long hours sitting, because maintaining unhealthy positions for hours places stress on muscles, joints, and circulation, causing the body to work harder than necessary and contributing to feelings of physical fatigue. And as years pass, many people adapt to these conditions so gradually that they no longer recognize them as problems, because exhaustion becomes part of their identity, and they begin saying things like, "I am always tired," or "I have no energy," without questioning why. And this reveals an important truth. Feeling tired all the time is often not caused by one single factor, but by the accumulation of many small habits repeated every day, because sleep, stress, food, movement, sunlight, relationships, and mental stimulation all work together to shape how much energy the body has. And when several of these systems become unbalanced, fatigue becomes almost inevitable. And while occasional tiredness is normal, persistent exhaustion should not simply be accepted as a permanent part of life, because the body constantly sends signals about what it needs, and fatigue is one of the clearest signals it has. And understanding the causes behind that signal can help explain why so many people in modern society feel exhausted even when they are not doing physically demanding work, because the greatest drain on energy is often not one dramatic problem, but the quiet accumulation of everyday habits that slowly pull the body further away from the conditions it evolved to thrive in. Perhaps the most important thing to understand is that energy is not something you simply have or do not have, but something created by countless processes working together inside the body every second. And when these processes are supported through healthy habits, the body becomes remarkably efficient at producing energy, maintaining focus, and recovering from stress. But when those systems are constantly interrupted, the result is often a persistent feeling of tiredness that no amount of coffee or weekend sleep seems to fix. Because true energy cannot be borrowed indefinitely. It must be restored. And one of the reasons modern life creates so much exhaustion is that many people are surrounded by convenience but deprived of recovery. They have endless entertainment but very little quiet. They have artificial light but little sunlight. They consume information constantly but rarely allow their minds to rest. and they spend hours sitting while expecting their bodies to feel energetic. And over time, these contradictions begin taking a toll, and perhaps this explains why so many people describe themselves as exhausted, despite living in a world filled with technologies designed to make life easier. Because convenience does not automatically create health, and sometimes the things that restore energy the most are surprisingly simple, such as quality sleep, movement, sunlight, balanced nutrition, meaningful relationships, and moments of peace. And while these habits may seem ordinary, their effects accumulate just as powerfully as unhealthy habits do. And in the end, the difference between constantly feeling tired and feeling truly alive often comes down to the small decisions repeated every day. Because those choices quietly determine how the body functions, how the brain performs, and how much energy is available to experience life fully. And understanding these reasons reveals that exhaustion is not always something to fight against, but often a message from the body asking for balance, recovery, and conditions that allow it to operate the way it was always designed to.